we continue working on our block. Now we will style these metadata that we have here. First of all, we need to create a mask. On the iPhone, besides the video, we also have this gradient mask. Let's create a selector for it. Next, it will occupy the entire area, 100% width, and it will also occupy 100% height further. Let's add a display block. We will position it. Absolutely. So, we add top, okay, left raised, and the index 1. We added a Z index of 0 to the video, therefore here the Z index is 1. Now I need a gradient. Let's see what kind of gradient we have. So, our gradient is located right here. We copy it, but add this gradient in CSS as it changes depending on the color scheme. I name it as mask gradient. The same gradient I will create for the dark version as well. The only thing is, I will take it already. From here, I copy this variable, return to CSS, and set the background using this gradient. Let's see if it applies well to us. Yes, it applies. The only thing, I want it not at 100%, but to reduce it a little so that the original color of the day is visible, that is to make it smaller. Then the image will seem more vibrant, in my opinion. Let's try right. Maybe we'll revert it back now. Yes, now it's better. There are some areas here that are more vibrant. Next step, we need a central container, which will contain our report, these 540 pixels, 1540. We look at the body that we set, but in principle we have it here. Hero content, we can use it. This is the publisher, but there is no such report yet. Let's probably create it now. Again, you are now with FileGame, our global. Such a class will be required in different positions on the site. We will use it so we can create it here. We will specify a width of 100%. We will specify a maximum width of 1540 pixels. And margin left auto, margin right auto, or something similar. All right, so 100% note. Remember, in the previous lesson we extended beyond the width. That is, the parent had paddings of 15. Well, I don't remember if it was exactly 15 pixels, most likely not. Rem. Paddings. Why didn't I reset them? I could have reset them in JSON, but I didn't, because they will be useful for the mobile version when we reduce. These are exactly the kind of paddings, and it prevents our text from sticking to the sides. That's why I decided to use this approach. It's more suitable. Okay, basically we have this wrapper. We can attach it here as a second class, but then I would have to do a recovery for the block. I would rather just write these styles again for this new class. That is, I will write the styles for the wrapper again, and then the rest that I need. So essentially I need maximum width 1540. Normal width 100%. Next, I require display, flex need direction, column down further. and dance flex. Start. Justify content center. So it seems I didn't mess up. Let's check now because we're going from top to bottom. And of course, yes, these elements are currently hiding. So we need to bring them up from the top. Let's set the position related to this block and set the Z index 2. Let's make it bigger, 5. Because maybe something else will appear between them. We have a slider there, so 5 will be okay. So here our data has arrived. Only but I didn't set the margin and didn't center it. Like this. And probably here I won't use the full width, because it always sticks to mobile devices to avoid setting additional paddings. I'll just set it. Or no, actually I'll leave it like this. But these paddings are also set inside here using this variable. Like this. That is so that our, so to speak, report is maintained and it works well on mobile devices. So we are missing some height. So let's also set the height to 100%. Okay. Now, let's style according to the layout. We'll select our elements. We have a gap of 24 pixels here. Let's add this property of 24 pixels. Next, it's important for us to consider what we need for the fonts. We need to decide on the sizes and colors. That is, for some, we created variables. For others, we did not. So for such colors, we have text secondary. Let's check if we created it. I already forgot. So there is a primer text, a secondary text, there is none, and now we are creating it. And for duck, next, text primary. So this color, let's see if we have here. Here is used some contrast, another color. Here, also contrast. Let's see here what we have. White. Here, some other colors. Then we will have to create these variables. But white contrast exists, and here is the white contrast. White contrast. We have it, we will use it. And so we have these colors whose dependencies. We will specify them. Now regarding the size, so the size is H1 is 64 pixels. For headings we should have the default style set, which will be inherited. Therefore, it is also advisable to output them in the game store. key on size, but I don't set 64. I usually do this through clamp, adding it so that on mobile devices it decreases symmetrically. In this case, let's use a special generator. So I use this kind of generator for mobile devices. My minimum viewport is 320. The maximum is Rapier. For me, it's 1540. And at the maximum, I have 64. The pixel value from the layout for the mobile will be, I think, again, here by eye, I don't have a layout for the mobile, and I assume 40, something like that. And this value I will use as the font size. And it will be in this range up to this point and symmetrically. Adjust to the size. For H2, it is here below. H2 is already 54. Here it will be 36. This is for H2. Let's copy. For the styles of the Estron, maybe there aren't any, or maybe there are. Let's take a look at this. There is no such style as a heading, so symmetrically we will also subtract 10 pixels, so 44 here is already 32. Let this be our H3. That is, we are adjusting it by eye for those elements that are not present or provided for in the design. H4 will already be 34. And here, 28. In this way, we have set these sizes. Also, our headings have additional styles. And who will write? So now let's go back. Let's refresh here. Take a look. Now let's return specifically to our catalog with the block. IRA content was also set. We will refer to the hero title, meaning the color of this specific element, white contrast. Switching to the light version. White contrast, then to the strong tag. I will set a gradient, but only on the tag. They are class. I also need to create this gradient. meaning a variable is created for it. This gradient has the same colors in both the dark and light versions. It doesn't change, so rewriting it for the dark version doesn't matter, it's pointless. Now we need to attach the gradient to the text. This is done in the following way in CSS. We need to set the gradient as a background, so we use such types come with a backup. Since you are admins, you know, this variable doesn't exist, it needs a backup. Still, it is set through a backup. Next, we need to set the background clip text. Also set it for WebKit. Background clip. We need to set the text fill color to transparent. And check. Good. It looks better already. Next, we style the hero description. So, font 20 pixels, let's see for the bug. Also 20 pixels. Therefore, we will set these parameters on the bug, and we will set them through the terminal. So that on mobile, it will be 20 on desktop, and on mobile, I think 16 will be okay. There, I will set this value on the bug in the game store. Line height. Line height, but they are different everywhere. Therefore, I am not sure that I will use it. Let's do it by eye like this. We'll adjust it. And see, it's difficult to say anything about this for now. The text. And then when we have some more extensive text, we might adjust the line. And the next element, which is this button and the robot. Again, the hero button is a global element, so we will also write its code in the game store. we'll apply a gradient to the background buttons. Then the color. So right now we have a color variable, but it's always white, so color needs to be overridden. Further, sometimes we will have a parameter with a shadow, so we use an additional shadow class, and specifically here a button with a shadow. So besides this class, we also use shadow. We add that in some blocks it might be without a shadow, and to avoid playing around with styles. And this is a button. Here's the recovery block. Then we'll also have to do it in the admin panel. The shadow. And here we have a variable blue. Let's see what this variable is. So in both versions it's the same color, it doesn't change. So we are simply referring here to this color. It doesn't make any sense to set it as a variable. Next, we can come up with some kind of hover effect. On hover, we can make it monochrome. I don't know if it will look nice, perhaps. Let's try. I don't like that it flickers. Some kind of style. Yes, so it blinks from the browser. When we turn it from a gradient into a color, it blinks. But I'll try to do it differently then. I'll make a gradient for it too. But I'll add a subtle yet clever gradient with the same color and elegant. Like this, and it no longer blinks. But it's not very pretty. To make it prettier, I suppose this color can be darkened. Yes, now it looks decent. Let's see what we have in the layout and what we have on the side, switching the color scheme. Also looks quite good. We're done with the metadata. Next, let's move on to this container. Let's see what container we have set up. Hero slider. So we didn't attach anything to hero description here, so we delete it. Hero slider is after the container, right here after the content. It occupies, takes up 100%. It will be positioned absolutely. On the left position, Nero. It will attach to the bottom, so bottom 0. Won't be some height. Let's see what this height is. There's a background here of 150. No, it's not 150 here. It's strange here. Here, the block is inverted, so 150 by 1000. Here, 150. So we set the height to 150. Next, we need a background here. Let's try to take it. Here it is. But this background is also dynamic depending on the palette. So we go to the variables, the block with variables. We have a client. So I copy it. I copied it so that it would immediately sort of have a buffer so it would work in the admin panel as well. And I don't forget about the dark version. And with a military click, clicked on the box and took this style. Let's refresh. Here's our container. It's here. Of course, highlighting now doesn't work correctly. So, indeed, these styles go from left to right, but not from bottom to top. Apparently, the element that applies them here was rotated. And we just need to set it another. We need to change to this angle. Let's change it. Logically, 120 or 0. I don't usually remember such things. I always use a generator. Well, let's try it like this for now. 120. Up to 180, and now we have a gradient going from bottom to top, say. And down here we have a panel with a gradient. I think it's better visible on the white here. Given white, it's more visible. Here it doesn't look very nice because the browser renders it completely differently, not like Figma. How this can be solved? I think it can be solved by increasing the height. The container, not 150, but conditionally. 200, maybe even 250. And then more smoothly, I think it will to cross over. Yes, much better already. Much better already, but still, it is still there. Probably reduce it back to 150. So the browser renders this gradient. That is the slide container. It will have 100%, but it will also have a maximum width of 1540 pixels. Next, everything that goes beyond its edges, we will hide. And set. Box sizing to border box. Further inside we have a swiper wrapper. That is, I specifically said the swiper wrapper at the time when we were developing, because so on one side it's needed, and because this is the exact script I will be connecting, it needs a separate container like this. So on the swiper wrapper, we will set the display to flicks, and already on the elements themselves inside, slit, Alton. We will set this margin here like automatically. I don't know the pixels. 100 pixels. I will set it further. Set the minimum width to fit content so it occupies space and doesn't squash these logos. And margin left 0. I will set it. Okay. Next, all EMG will have display none. That is I am hiding these logos all. No, let's not hide all. Here, we will only hide those that are dark. Since we don't have a class for the light theme, we are hiding the dark ones. And also, guys, one more thing. Here I started writing all the code in this long selector. I made some adjustments. The long selector was only needed for the video, to position the video, and everything else I can pull out from here. Therefore, all this body, I pull it out and rearrange it here. Otherwise, we have very long selectors being generated. They become so long because we use a lot of nesting. But that would be overkill. And we have a class on the bug for the dark version. We enable it, copy this class. Dark mode game 100. And when it is enabled, there's a typo. Here, it should be black recovery. I can't take the selector for the inner item, but it's not a big deal. I'll take it like this and just add to it. Wonderful. And now we have empty dark displayed. Light is not displayed. Let's do a recovery for this block in the admin panel. Press recovery to reload. The block is restored. We save it. The styles didn't load. Probably just don't like these variables again. It just doesn't want to accept the gradient. As a backup option, apparently, there is some specification. So, to make the admin panels work, we need to set these gradient variables. Let's see what's happening here. Yes, much better now. Here are our logos. Styles are missing. Let's add the remaining styles. We also need to bring it up higher, as it's currently hidden. I set. Let's set it to 3. That is more than the background mask, but less than the text. If the text would just just as on top, this button should cover our logos. So there's something, but it's not enough. This index doesn't work. It needs a position. Position relative. We'll set and that's not the problem. Z index, I just don't on that element, but I am setting it on the child. It should be on the parent. Yes, now it's much more better. In the light version, the white logo is shown, or rather, in the dark version, and in the light version, this logo is shown. Next, they need to be centered by height as well. Let's see how they are centered here. Essentially, we have containers, and they are centered within this container. Therefore, this block should also be centered. Let's make it dynamic. Place it in the center using display flags. Line item center. And we'll set justify content to center as well. Here, I think we need to set a minimum width. Field content. Flex boxes sometimes tend to squash elements. There they move to the center. All right? Well, it's already starting to look like a hero block. Our shadow has appeared. Let's modify it a bit with hover and shadow. So on hover. We view shadow's appearance. And what can we change here? Maybe reduce its position. 8. That won't move. We don't need the same element here additionally. Well, not sure. Well, probably like this. It looks, I wouldn't say it's great, but it looks okay. Next step. We need to make this slider work. That is, these are not static images. It's a slider that will rotate. We have a separate file in Jest for this, and this is where we will write the code to initialize this slider. This will be a swiper, then this slider. I will use it in this block and in other blocks, meaning we have many sliders in this project. All of them can be implemented using this single swiper library. For this reason, I will load the library not to the block itself, hero, but specifically to make the theme. And I will load it on all pages for now, but later, at the end of this course, if necessary, and if we work on page optimization, we will be able to disable it on certain types of pages where the slider is not used. But for now, at this moment, we will connect Swiper on all pages. Let's go to the Swiper website. We can install it via npm, or we can download these two libraries. So, I mentioned that we will put it in the template. So, let's go to Assets. Then, JS. And create a new file. We place this source code there. The second point is that I will name it in this way, directly from the original. And we will set the same name during registration to avoid conflicts, if any. plugin uses it, it won't be loaded twice for the session. I will use this library. Everything is great, meaning I now have these two files in the body of our theme. Let's go to functions of PHP and register them. We can register them right here in this cookie. We'll just make a note that this is swiper slider. Let's close all the files. Here we had a clean tree. And we could see all the file hierarchies, structures, and various details. So I set one. CSS, set the path to the file and use this as the slug. That is the ID of the swiper itself. The same goes for JS. We connect the style through with style, the script through MP script. So now this library will load on all project pages. Next, we return to the all budget. Here we will add a note for our slider. So upon loading swiper hero, we will have a new slider class. I already forgot which ones we used there. Slider, container we used. So probably we'll take it like this. This selector is too trivial. It needed to be made more thematic, since there are many sliders in the project. Nothing terrible. And near this body, we will already be issuing parameters. So regarding the parameters, firstly it will rotate in a loop, so we set the loop to next. It will automatically start by itself, so we will set autoplay and disable. We can also add next. How many slides will fit? Let's set it automatically. Slide U, so that it calculates the speed itself. Let's set it to 1500. Let's enable manual switching for it. So we just simply move to our slider, refresh the page, go into inspect. No, the slider is not initializing. Swiper is not defined. So it didn't load. Let's look at the source code. If the library so Viper.js, if it's not there, then we return to the function. It's not there because there's no JS here. So it's still not there. We have it. Not Swiper.js, just Swiper. These are all the classes in our basement. It should be up to its own Perry here. We look at the source code. Has the error disappeared? Auto shore from not defined to budget. Auto from not defined. Well, of course, it's not a parameter. It needs to be set as a string. It's not a Boolean. When set without quotes, it's a string. Now, we are testing. So there are no errors. And let's see if it initializes for us. Yes, now it initializes. Hover doesn't work on it because it's below what we set here. So we will probably set this text under it after all. Let's go to style and look at this content 5. We will remember that it's 1 there. Well, 1, let's make this 2. And this one 3. So everything is fine. Now it's on top. And in principle, it is working now. It's active. It just has few items and it can't scroll. If we add a couple more logos, logically, it should start. Let's test it. And we'll also adjust styles in the admin panel. That is, so that in the admin panel, it looks exactly the same as on the front end. All right, let's select. Let me pause the video and add a few more logos. So I added 3 more logos, refreshing the page. Now there should be many of them. So there are many, but they have somehow taken up the entire width, although I seem to have set this wrapper on the parent here. And I also set the minimum width to fit content, and there's a lot of content there. And because there's a lot of content, it consumed them. So now, yes, it works. So we'll remove this property. Fit content is not needed. We'll refresh now. So, okay, we got something. Yes, but I like this system where one of the sliders is sort of slightly cut off. Therefore, we can come up with something, or we can leave it as it is for now and fix it in the future. This can be corrected by writing some fix for this specific moment, but otherwise, it's fine for now. I think we'll leave it as it is. It's not that important. This is not really a WordPress functionality, so we will deal with it later if we want to. Let's close all unnecessary things and return to the admin panel. In the admin panel, we also need to make it work more or less. We have a special file that is responsible for the admin panel, and here we have variables. We also need to set variables so that these styles work in the admin panel. In addition, we have parts of the code, such as the button we wrote in Game Store CSS and other related components. But this file does not load in the admin panel. We cannot load it in the admin panel because there is a reset here, and there are other styles that nullify and spoil things. Therefore, in cases where the task is to make the admin block exactly the same, I resort to simply having to duplicate some pieces of code. That is, in this case, I will take the variables, insert them here, and leave only those that I use. So as far as I remember, we use gradient, gradient, second, accent, gradient for the button. This and this are used. And I think for the text secondary. We use this one, I believe. In this, I still leave it. Also, I here button, copy, add a, and what else in styles? We won't set sizes for the headers. We won't set the rapport either. I think it will be better now. Refresh the page, and we get the result in principle. Of course, there are inaccuracies, like here, because different on margins, and all this needs to be found and fixed. That is, only this block has separate margins, and this one has completely different ones. So it's worth taking it like this. Yes, this is the code that we wrote, but it will be rewritten inside editor, therefore, in the editor for these moments. Margin top, ECO. Margin bottom. We just have a parent using flex and it arranges them. But the elements themselves also have other classes. For example, from WordPress, top and bottom. And for the paragraph is set. And what else do we have there? The button has nothing. Let's update now. That's already better itself. This heading also doesn't have the necessary line height, since these styles set in this file. You can create a similar file, and for the admin panel, a separate empty one. You can simply override this here. This is only in cases where the design and the front part and the back part must match. That's already better. Further, we haven't uploaded the logo here. We can do that. So again, we'll use copy-paste from here. We need to take this batch of code, go to edit, and at the end, where it closes the hero content, we will add it. So we have changed the body. Most likely now the recovery block will request again. No, the recovery block does not request because this code is already on the front and there is no conflict during verification. The only thing is that the sliders here do not initialize because Vue.js is only for the front end. Moreover, we also loaded the libraries only on the front end. It can be done without any problems to make it work in the admin panel as well. But the point is, it's not worth doing. It's not necessary to do it. Only the administrator sees this page and I don't do it. For the current block, this is quite sufficient. Nothing more is needed. And the last thing we need to fix here is the overflow. Let's just find where to add it. Yes, on this container, on these two classes, the editing. Everything, it looks great. I can change the content here. I can set a photo. Let's set a photo now. And we'll define a style for it because the style is not set. It's good that we remembered this at the end. And what's happening now? Let's take this class. ImageBG. Returning to the style. Yes, but we can save it. This photograph here. Just connected everything inside. Saved it. Let's upload. We'll save it. So our tag here went from below. Let's refresh the page. Check the cache. Issue. Yes, it's a cache issue. We just added the gear and I think it looks very good. On the front, let's see. It really looks very juicy and beautiful. Light version and dark version. And for some pages, we can use a static version with a photograph that won't be dynamic. And we can also use a version with video. Like this. The next thing we'll check is how the block behaves on a mobile device. On a mobile device, it's worth adjusting the height, and it's also worth working a bit with this slider. Just make the images smaller and the padding smaller. We'll deal with this later when we have the entire page implemented. Then we'll create a separate branch on GitHub for responsive and make adjustments for all blocks on a mobile device. In principle, that's enough for this lesson. We have finished the block. When we finish working on a block, we send this data to the repository. I'm turning off the terminal. Hero block is now ready. Then I go to GitHub. I go to our repository and I won't test it after each block because it takes time. I will, just now. Merge it with our main branch. So we create a pull request. We definitely can't have any conflicts because we are the only ones working on this project and no changes have been added to the branch. The pull request is created, and I confirm it immediately. And the data now appears in my main branch. That is, my hero block is successfully merged with the main branch. I can now proceed to the next block. To ensure everything is correct in your terminal, after doing this, you execute git fetch and git pull. But I am currently in the branch block hero. So git checkout main. You need to switch to main and then update main. That is, use the most recent changes and from the current position, you can create a new branch and work on a new block. With this, I conclude this lesson. See you in the next lesson.